Welcome. They think it's all sober. Alex,
Hi, lovely to be here.
how are you?
Really good. Yeah, all good. How are you?
We're good. As we were just saying, this is our first day in our new studio.
Very exciting.
Kind of feels like first day at school.
It
Like first day of
does.
recording for the new season and first day in the new studio. And I think we maybe were like a little bit overly comfortable in our last place. So now it's sort of like we'll mix it up and here we are.
And here we are. I'm enjoying it.
I'm enjoying it.
It's
It
a nice
feels more.
vibe.
Do you know what I would say? And this is no disrespect to our old place. Our old place was like in an office building and it was quite clinical and there was 2 or 3 sets in it and it was quite big. This feels like we're in our living room
Yeah.
having nice conversations
bit more
with our
intimate.
friends.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's not about us. It's about you. How are you?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, very happy to be here.
Nice.
Nice. So, in true podcast form, I think what we want to do is understand and give our listeners a chance to sort of understand a bit of your, like, I guess, history with drinking, and then when you stopped, reasons for stopping, and then I guess life since, and all the trials and tribulations that come with sobriety.
Amazing.
Because it's not a linear journey, is it? So,
Definitely not.
So I think we haven't done this in a while, but if you'd like to step into Jamie's time machine.
First time machine in the new studio. Right, are you in, Alex? You comfy?
I'm ready. Yeah.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
The Great Portland Street time machine.
So, young Alex, what are your first memories of alcohol growing up?
Yeah, interestingly, I was never a big drinker growing up. And I think I was a very anxious teenager. Not that I probably recognised that when I was a teenager,
Right.
but things like house parties were not my vibe. And I never went to any. And when I did get invited to them, I would end up talking myself out of it. So I feel like my first drinking experiences didn't actually come until I was 18.
Right.
And interestingly, I didn't go to uni. I did an apprenticeship. So it was all very like work social focused. I had my first shot at a work drinks, which is very weird to think about.
Interesting.
But I didn't really have that experience until I was about 18. And obviously with work socials, it's like payday drinks on Thursday. I'd be drinking a lot of white wine because that's kind of what everyone else was doing. I just wanted to fit in. And I think that was my first experience of it. I vividly remember the first time I was ever drunk was, again, at a work social, and I was at a bar. And I remember the toilets were up these stairs that were surrounded by mirrors. And I was so drunk that I couldn't really walk up the stairs. And I remember being so frustrated at I couldn't get up these stairs, and I was stumbling a bit, and I found that really disorientating because I'm
Right.
such a control freak. And then even coming home from that bar, I don't really remember how I got home, which I found quite scary. And I'd like remember bits and pieces, and I remember being on the train and I realised I'd wet myself, and I found that really distressing. And then the next morning, I was so anxious about it anyway, like a very anxious person. And then you've got the anxiety on top of that.
Yeah.
And then the thought that I'd wet myself on the train, and I didn't tell anyone about that for years, which when you actually think about it, that happens so much with people drinking. It's so normal. And I remember just like I really struggled with that. And I also used to get quite bad hangovers as well, especially with the wine hangover. It's different.
Yeah.
And I used to always get really hungover. Like, it doesn't matter if I had just like 3 glasses of wine, I would be sick the next day. And I remember like people always say to you, they're like, oh, enjoy being young, you don't have the hangovers. And I was like, oh, have I missed the memo? Like, I'm getting hungover. And so I think I would drink socially, but I was never a big drinker because I was very aware of the fact I didn't like feeling out of control. I didn't like being hungover the next day. And so I was kind of, from that first experience, I think I was a bit more measured in how I was drinking because I was so hyper aware of
Right.
what I didn't like.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like, and I suppose that's very different to, I guess our kind of stories of like growing up doing teen drinking in
Yeah.
fields and stuff. But I also had really bad anxiety when I was growing up. But I kind of felt that probably maybe drink was something that helped it, weirdly.
Yeah.
But I guess for you, like the avoidance of house parties and socializing, I guess you just weren't exposed to it, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I think so. Because I think like I definitely felt that like when I was older and I was drinking in social situations, I absolutely found it so helpful to unwind and feel not super awkward. I'd have a drink and that
Sure.
would help. But I think when I was a teenager, I couldn't get over the first barrier of actually getting to the house party. So I feel like I wasn't really exposed to the big drinking culture anyway, because I couldn't actually get myself there.
Yeah.
But then when I was drinking more socially, I like I was using that to unwind, because otherwise I would just feel so stiff and awkward and out of place. And I feel like that did help to unwind, be more social, yap way too much, and then I feel like the next day just regret everything that I've said. Whereas now I have that, and I'm like, well, that's just me being sober, but still yapping too much about what I'm saying.
Yeah.
With the anxiety thing, it's something that comes up so much with people that use drink kind of as a crutch.
Yeah.
Even before you kind of drank, like, if you don't mind kind of talking about it, like, what were the sort of things that would stop you from going to the parties, and would you feel like you were missing out by
Absolutely. I felt like I was missing out. And I remember, like, because I'd never had that experience before, I didn't know what it was. And I remember feeling just so anxious about anything that could happen, who was going to be there. I didn't really know people, and I would talk myself out of it. And I use the example because I'm now on medication for anxiety, and it's literally the best thing ever. When I speak to my doctor about how it's going, I'm like, I'm still anxious every day and I worry all the time, which doesn't sound like I've got better, but I found that when I was younger, it was like debilitating and it would stop me from doing things. And now I can, like, I don't say no to things. I keep doing things, stuff like this. Like, if you told Alex 3 years ago, would you go on a podcast? She'd be like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And before, like, when I was coming back to the office after COVID, and I would literally have to wake up like 2 hours earlier just so I could like sit on my bathroom floor and just like mentally prepare myself for the day. And so I think that's why I wasn't, when I was younger, like going to these things, because I would stop going to stuff because I was anxious. And like one of my things of anxiety was like eating around people. I couldn't eat in front of people. I don't really know why. So if I was ever out for like going to the cinema with someone or like going for drinks, that would be fine. And then as soon as they were like, oh, let's have dinner as well, I'd be like, oh my God, suddenly I actually can't make it. Something's come up. And I would stop myself from doing things. So yeah.
It's really interesting anxiety, isn't it? Because I think, like, I don't know how it was when you were growing up, but for me now, I won't go into like my kind of history, but like I was like an only child and had quite a lot of like, you know, grief and trauma when I was a kid. And I definitely was super shy and super anxious, but the word didn't really exist in the 90s. Like there was feeling anxious and there was like the word existed. But I think in terms of like, you were just told that you were nervous.
Yeah.
And I remember like sometimes like going into like birthday parties when I was 7 or 8 and like running out of them crying to my mum because of this feeling in my stomach. And she was like, oh, you're just nervous. And then now when you kind of do research into it, you're like, oh no, that was actually probably like early onset anxiety, but it just wasn't really a thing. Or am I kind of like showing our age here? But I just don't really remember it being a thing. Was it the same for you when you were at school?
Absolutely. It was the same for me. I think I remember one time where I was handing in my geography coursework and I was on the bus, and like when I was getting ready for the day, I was having to sit down while I was doing my makeup because I just couldn't stand up and I felt really sick and I didn't know why. And then when I was on the bus and I threw up on the bus because I was so stressed, and I just thought, oh, I'm ill, like I need to go home. And I came home and I was absolutely fine. And now looking back, I'm like, you were anxious, like that's what that was. And like having those physical symptoms, I was like, oh, I'm just ill, that's what that is. Whereas now, like since I've kind of like become an adult, I've like done therapy, I'm now on medication, and I can kind of identify all of that stuff. But definitely relate to what you're saying, when you're younger, it's not treated like that, and it's just like, oh, you're nervous, whereas it's like, no, you shouldn't be throwing up.
She's
you're
just
nervous.
A bit shy.
Yeah,
and you're there
exactly.
being like, my world is crumbling around me.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting that because there's definitely a big difference between nerves and anxiety. I feel like, I feel like nerves are quite powerful, especially like in doing what I do. If it's ever like performance or even when we did the live show, I feel like nerves can be used as like an asset to fuel you, whereas I think anxiety is different.
Yeah.
And I think you have to find your, techniques, and you have to do your therapy, and you have to do your like proper work on yourself to get to the bottom of it. I mean, when I was a kid, my anxiety was like awful, and I just suffered from really bad panic attacks when I was a kid. And I remember when I had the first one, and it was like, it kind of blew my mind that that's what it was. I had them for quite a long time, but then I guess they kind of faded out over time. But anxiety has always been something that's been very, very present in my life, and has been less present since stopping drinking and drinking coffee. Which
we both went caffeine-ish free in January, which has been quite interesting.
Yeah,
I still drink Coke Zero.
I have heard caffeine does help massively if you cut it out.
I think
not
it's
quite there yet. Still loving the coffee.
I genuinely think it's probably helped my anxiety as much as stopping drinking did.
Really?
Yeah, I'd say the same.
Yeah, we were going to do a month Because like half our listeners still drink. In January, we were like, well, we can't do dry January because we're really sober, but we'll do a caffeine-free January because so many people on our like Patreon and have been saying how stopping caffeine had helped them. So we were like, let's do a month. First 2 weeks, horrendous.
I've heard the headaches are.
Yeah, you had like full withdrawals, didn't you?
I had full withdrawals, and I'd even weaned myself off. Like I'd normally try and take 3 weeks off at Christmas.
Yeah.
So in that, I went down to just like 1 coffee a day, and I was like, that's fine. I was going from 3 to
like
1.
A caffeine training routine.
And I like properly got like down to 1. And I was like, this is going to be fine. I've weaned myself off. I'm on a third of the amount that I was. And then it got to like 2 weeks. Yeah, I think the first like week, I think day 4 or 5, it kicked in. And I was like, horrendous. It was so bad. But then after like 2 weeks, I was like, oh. And I got to the end of the month. I was like, let's keep this rolling. So
magic life hack.
But yeah, anyway.
So with your booze, obviously, it sounds like you're a very anxious teenager and then going into the work environment. Did you have to kind of force yourself into those drink scenarios? And how was it conversing with your colleagues? And then did you feel like the drink, what did it do to you? Like, what were the feelings that you got when you had those first couple of drinks?
Yeah, I think it loosened me up and I felt a bit more relaxed and I was able to socialise because I think I decided to do an apprenticeship rather than uni because I was anxious and I was like, the uni lifestyle doesn't seem like it's for me. I'm not sure why I thought the world of work is less anxiety inducing, but I did. And I think I was like comfortable with people in my team. I really liked them, which I think helped. But I was still like socially felt like I was really awkward. And so I think the drinks kind of helped with that and helped me feel a bit less awkward and helped me feel like I was less standing out and having a drink in your hand. It just, even now, like I've always got a drink in my hand, like a little Diet Coke or something, just to make me feel a little bit less awkward. And I think it just really helped make me feel like I was like everyone else and I was able to speak and not be like, oh. Yeah.
Because it's hard, isn't it? I think when you're that age and whether it is uni or work for the first time, like we're all still figuring out like who the hell we are.
Absolutely.
And if you do have like an overactive brain and your brain's telling you like, oh, you're not good enough or this is going to be shit or everyone's going to not like you, whatever, you are trying to do anything you can to quieten it down. It was only, again, in probably my 30s when I quit drinking or started therapy that I was like, oh yeah, I totally used all of this stuff as a coping mechanism, but you just don't think about it at the time because it, as much as we don't want to admit it, like it does give you something and you're like, oh, I'm fun and like people are laughing at me and whatnot. But then you have an experience like you had the first time and you kind of get home and what was it like the next day when you woke up?
I think like I remember always going back to when you go to bed for the first time, like after you've just been out drinking and like you've got that fuzzy head and the world like is spinning a bit and you're just feel so out of control and I hated that feeling. And I remember like the next day, like I always just used to feel so rubbish and my head would be pounding and I get headaches anyway because I definitely don't drink enough water. And so then that's so much worse when you've been drinking. And I think I have these anxious thoughts anyway. Having the alcohol on top of that, like I don't need that as well. I do it by myself. So I think it just is so much worse. Then you're overthinking everything that you said and you're like, why did I say that? Oh, I can't remember this conversation with this person. Like, why? What did I say? Did I say anything embarrassing? Like, are they going to think that I'm... And it's just like, no one's thinking that. People are going to be worried about themselves. They're not going to be thinking about what you were doing.
Yeah.
They don't care.
It's so funny, isn't it? Actually, like the anxiety used to be the worst for me, especially at a festival, like with both of us working in music. It's obviously the lines are very blurred between social and work. So you'd remember like having a really great time with your mates, but then like bumping into someone quite important and having a conversation that I'm sure was like 99% fine.
Yeah.
But I'd then go home and just ruminate and be like, oh my God, what did I say? Did I make myself look stupid? Like, and that would honestly haunt me for like weeks, months. Like even now I think back to some like conversations I think I may have had, I may not have even had them. And I get this like feeling in the pit of my stomach. It's like, holy shit. And people kind of laugh about anxiety. Like I've got a lot of friends that be like, oh, I did too much coke last night. I'm going to come down. Like I've got so much anxiety, but like, it's
it's horrible.
And like, there's so much science between like anxiety in your stomach and like how that can make you super unwell. Like I think we kind of laugh about, do you feel like now anxiety has become a bit of a buzzword for people just to be like, I'm anxious, but maybe like not understanding that it can be really clinical and really debilitating?
I think so, yeah. And I think like it's so normal for people to be nervous and some people to like struggle with how they're feeling, and sometimes it is anxiety, sometimes it's not. And I've got one friend who, she is not anxious at all, absolutely love her, but she was once feeling really nervous, and she like, her chest was really tight, and she was like, do you feel this every day? And I was like, yes. And she was like, this is horrible. And I was like, I know. It is. And so I think, yeah, there's definitely I think it's so good that so many more people are talking about it and talking about anxiety, and especially with men as well. I feel like that's definitely a topic that isn't covered, and it's definitely kind of swept under the rug a lot. So I think it is useful people having these conversations, but there's definitely probably a bit of a, what is nerves versus anxiety. Yeah.
We have it sometimes with, for me, it's that same, and my girlfriend's taught me a lot about this, but like people being like, oh, this thing's giving me PTSD. And it's like, it's not though, is it?
Yeah.
Like, that's not PTSD, is it?
Same
like,
with OCD. When people are like really tidy and then they're like, oh, it's triggering my OCD. And it's like, well, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, come on. So working environment, do you mind saying like what kind of profession you work in?
Yeah, marketing. So
Okay.
I think pre-COVID as well, I was in the working world for about 2 years before COVID. So there's obviously like a lot more socials than there are now.
Yeah.
Like you've got the payday drinks, you've got the Thursday drinks, people go to the pub after work. It's a lot more normal. I feel like there's probably less of them now.
Yeah. Interesting. So I guess like I feel like marketing in general falls into the same world as kind of like entertainment, and where you would do a lot of after work drinks. And did you notice that was just like culture at work? Like was the majority of people like, right, it's Thursday, we're out, or like, you know, various socials being organised quite a lot?
I think so. I think like I wasn't working agency side, and I've heard that agency side there's a lot more of that, like drinking, drugs. There seems to be a lot more of that than where I was, but there's still like, it's so ingrained in our culture. I feel like just in the UK, there's drinking, you don't realise until you go sober, and you're like, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's so normal. And I hope I've been a huge advocate at work to be like, let's maybe try and do stuff with activities or something else that's just outside of drinking. Because like, don't get me wrong, I love going to the pub and I love a little pub quiz and a Diet Coke at the pub, but like sometimes I feel like it's good to have something elsewhere. And I've noticed like younger people in the team who are also not drinking, and like when they get questions about it, I'm trying to be a bit more of an advocate at work for like trying different things. I think I've noticed a bit of a switch. I don't know whether that's just in my team, but like there's always after work drinks tends to be at like somewhere that's got bowling or somewhere that's got darts or something where there's something else, which is really good to see.
That's funny because I did a merger with my company in April, and I got asked to be on the socials committee, which made my skin crawl. But they were like, look, there's 150 people in the office. Like, we need someone with a bit of a different perspective. Because they were just putting like, you know, 500 quid behind the bar a month, you know, on one night. And everyone would go to the pub and drink.
Yeah.
And then like tomorrow we've got our first one. And again, we're going bowling. And I was like, cool, like I'm advocating change. Because it's like, just that thing, if you're like, it's just cool to go do something that's like connective. And I think people, I don't know, without sounding like a bit corporate, but it is team building as well, isn't it? To go and do something like together with other people that doesn't involve around getting like fucked up. And also like all bad decisions happen when you're drunk.
Yeah.
It's like all office drama, I'm sure, like gets exacerbated when people are drunk. Like, do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think it's much more inclusive just for everyone. Like you've got mums who need to leave early to do the pickup, or you've just got so many other people who work different patterns. And I think just doing something during the day where you've got an activity, people can have drinks afterwards, that's absolutely fine. Or like people who aren't drinking for religious reasons. So you want to make sure that everyone's included. So I think I've noticed a bit of a shift, which is a positive thing.
That is very positive. How long have you been sober for now?
About 2.5 years. I actually don't remember the specific date because I never thought it was going to be a permanent thing.
Right.
But it was around Christmas 22, I think. So, yeah.
Okay, interesting. So let's talk about the kind of that final year of drinking. So would you say your drinking ever kind of got out of control? Because I think from what you're saying, you had one sort of pretty memorable experience where you were like, I don't like that. I don't like being out of control.
Yeah.
So what was your sort of like drinking cap on a night out? Where did you go, you know?
Well, I think like because I'm barely 5 foot tall anyway, I didn't drink like huge amounts anyway. And then when I started antidepressants as well, like my tolerance was on the floor. I would be tipsy after one drink. And so I think I never drunk that much. And even that first experience where I really remember it, if anyone else had seen that or had that, they probably wouldn't even think twice about it. But to me, I remember feeling like I really didn't like it. And I think the change for me was when I went on antidepressants, because you're not meant to drink on them.
Yeah,
And I definitely did, because I started them in like July 2021. Coincidentally, the same week I started dating my boyfriend, and we went for our first date. We went out for drinks by the river, because I was like, oh, my last few drinks before I like stop drinking for a bit. And I remember speaking to my doctor about it, and I was like, what's the situation with alcohol? Like, can I drink? Can I not? And she was like, try not to, but if you want to, like, you can have a Gaviscon before, and that helps. I don't know why. And I remember like a couple of weeks later, I went out for drinks, and I had like a little chewable Gaviscon, and it was horrific, and it really put me off that. I was like, I don't want to do that again. So I kind of just slowly stopped drinking anyway, and I would just drink on like special occasions. And the last two that I kind of vividly remember was I went on holiday to Greece in like probably June time of 2022, and it was all inclusive. So I was like, well, it'd be a waste not to drink. Like, they've got cocktails on the menu. I want to try all of them. And then I remember having to go back to the room because I had a headache, because it was hot and I was overheated and I'd just drunk alcohol. And I was like, what a waste of a holiday. Like, I've spent good money to be here. Like, it felt like a waste. And so I just slowly stopped drinking. And then the last time that I think was the last time that I drank was at Christmas, and we were at my boyfriend's parents' house, and his mum doesn't drink as well, which I love, because it's really nice to have someone else who doesn't drink. But she always has a snowball at Christmas, and I was like, oh, I'd love to try one of those. So I had one, genuinely just one drink, and we were all playing games around the table, and I had to go upstairs to his room and just sit on the bed and stare at a wall because I was so anxious, and it was from one drink. And
you felt like that came on, like you palpably felt that attack come on when you...
I just felt so anxious after literally one drink, and I was like, why am I doing this? Like, it's not actually benefiting me anymore. I'm not even really getting tipsy or drunk, because I'm not even getting to that point because I'm having to stare at a wall. Like, and I think after that, I just realized, like, it's not benefiting me anymore. Like, I don't like the hangovers. I don't like feeling drunk. I don't really like the fact that I'm so much more anxious. And then I stopped drinking. And like I said, I wasn't expecting it to be a permanent thing, but I'm now 2.5 years later, and it's the best thing that I've ever done. And don't get me wrong, it's really hard sometimes, but like, it is so good, and I absolutely love it. And I can't imagine going back to that, even though I do sometimes have those worries. But yeah, I just love it, and it's the best thing that I've done.
Amazing. I mean, that first like period of not drinking. So did you have like a time frame in mind that you were like, oh, I'm not going to drink for a month, or like, what was it? Do you remember?
I can't really remember, but I don't think there was. I think I was just like, right, this isn't serving me anymore. And I just stopped drinking. And then I tried to do more events where I wasn't drinking, or socials where I wasn't drinking. And then it was hard, but I got through them. And then I was trying I don't even remember what happened, but I've obviously met people like Millie with Sober Girl Society, and I've gone to those events, and it's the best thing ever. And I remember I went to her dry disco, and on the way back I literally cried, and I was talking to my boyfriend, and I was like, this is what social events are meant to feel like. Like, I feel so happy. And I went to an alcohol-free wine club the other week, and
No way.
my boyfriend was saying afterwards, he was like, I can't imagine, because full transparency, I've been having some doubts about like going back to drinking, and I think I've realised I definitely don't want to now. But he was like, I was really worried when you said that, because you come back from these events and you're glowing and you're so happy and you like absolutely love it and you love the people you meet. And he was like, I was really worried you're going to lose that if you go back to it. So like, yeah, I just love the community that I've also found through it.
That's amazing, because I think I was thinking kind of about your journey. It's really interesting. I think our guests are going to love this, because I guess our listeners are going to love this, because anxiety comes up so much, and often it's not really spoken about with a lot of our guests, because I think sometimes it's sort of like the alcohol goes too far, or people use it to kind of quell anxiety, but then I guess the anxiety gets kind of, I guess, tumbled up in the drink and the drugs and the trauma, and it kind of gets merged in. But this is really interesting, because obviously you said that you kind of used alcohol to help quash the anxiety in the initial circumstances of like going out with work people, but then when you kind of had readdressed your relationship and then tried drinking again, it actually brought the anxiety back, which is kind of the reverse of how a lot of people have it. So that's really interesting, because I was going to ask now, how's it been as a sober person going into like social environments? Do you feel like that's something that you've developed with yourself, or is that the medication helping? Like, where do you feel like you're at, if you don't mind asking?
I think it's probably a bit of both. Like antidepressants have genuinely changed my life. Like, I'm a different person. People who knew me before, they're like, you are genuinely like, you're just a different person, and it's helped me so much. But I think the not drinking and giving me confidence to go to do social things and being fine. And don't get me wrong, I definitely don't stay out to as long as I did before, because I always used to get FOMO and be like, I want to be there until the end because what if something happens? Whereas now I'm like, I'm tired. I'd really like to go to bed.
See you later.
See ya, I'm gone. And so I think that is, that's helped. And I think, sorry, I can't actually remember what the original question was.
What's my original question?
I can't remember.
What was my original question? That's fine, we'll cut in.
You were saying about how...
Anxiety. Oh, yeah, like now. Like basically, hang on, let me cut this back in. It's like now going to those events, like your anxiety is fine and you're managing it and you don't feel like there's any need for alcohol at all.
Yeah, I think there's definitely moments where it's harder. I find Christmas is always difficult. There's always way more socials. And I think it was like a couple of years ago at Christmas where there was so many socials and I felt quite anxious. And there was one that sticks out in my mind where I was doing something else during the day, so I arrived to it later. And so everyone was quite drunk by the time I arrived, and I still get quite anxious around drunk people. And I remember everyone was like, come on the dance floor, like have a dance. And I was thinking, I have literally just got here. I feel so overwhelmed. And I kept going outside to get fresh air, but it was December and it was freezing. And then I ended up just leaving because all the other people that I know don't drink. And I kind of am like, we recognise that each other don't drink. They'd already left. So like, I just felt really uncomfortable and I ended up going home, and I think I had like a cry on the way home, and I was like, really didn't like that, and I kind of set some boundaries a little bit afterwards and was like, I'm not going to go to work socials for a bit and just like take it a bit easier. And I think I still have those moments sometimes where I feel a bit like a sore thumb and sticking out, but I feel like it happens less, and I feel like I'm better at managing it because the more social occasions you do without drinking, the more you're like, okay, I can do that. Like I've done it. And so I think it gets easier the longer you do it, but there's definitely still moments where I'm like, need a little toilet break to just like stare at myself in the mirror and be like, it's fine, like you've got this.
With your work, obviously from going from a position of like drinking at the work socials and stuff, and then going back after at Christmas where you kind of stopped, how did you navigate it with work people? Were you just like, I'm not drinking anymore?
I don't think I said anything particularly, but I'm way too much of an oversharer with work and not with work. I think when I stopped drinking, I might have been open with my manager because I was like speaking to them a lot at the time just about general stuff. But because I wasn't expecting it to be a permanent thing, it was just kind of something I was trying out. But I'm also very conscious that I have a TikTok account where I massively overshare on that. And unfortunately, a lot of people from work have found that TikTok account. So I'm kind of quite open with people at work because I know that if they wanted to find it, they realistically could.
Is on there.
I know. I've literally had someone before where I made a video about crying about work and having to like go sit outside and touch grass. And they were like, "Oh my god, I saw that video. Was that a joke?" And I was like, "No, that was actually real." And you know way too much about me. Like I don't even know your surname, and you know that I've cried about work. So I think like I'm always quite open about it. And if someone ever asks me, like I'm very happy to share it. I think you can kind of tell the tone when people ask you as well. Like if some people who are like, oh, come on, why are you not drinking? And then I still don't really know how to navigate that question. Sometimes when people are like that, I do say something like, oh, I'm on antidepressants because I know that that's going to make them feel embarrassed for asking. And I'm like, you should be embarrassed. Yeah. And I'm like, that will hopefully make you think when you ask. But like, some people, they're genuinely just curious. And I think like I'm very happy to talk about it with them. And I've had people since who then approach me when they're questioning their relationship with alcohol. And I think that's quite nice. I'm like, if I'm so open about it on the internet, may as well be open about it with people in my life. So yeah, I am quite open with it, with people at work about it.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, do you find that, I mean, I don't have an issue with people being curious at all. I actually quite enjoy it. And there's a big sort of, I guess, sober curious community out there. But what I do find is quite funny is when people are sober curious, they'll ask you about their drinking and they'll go, ask questions and they'll go, yeah, I mean, I don't really drink that much.
Yeah. They're like trying to justify it
and
to you.
then I'm like, hey, you do you, bro. Like, you know, it's no judgment here, my friend. But no, that's really interesting. And did you find that, like, you know, during that first, like, I don't know, few months of drinking, that your anxiety had lessened?
I don't think so, because I think there was so much going on at that time. And I think, like, being on antidepressants, I think I might have switched types of few times. I think it was around when I went sober as well.
Yeah.
And so there was so much going on, and then I was in a relationship that is like the healthiest relationship I've ever been in. He's amazing, and he like does so much for me. And I think like there was so much going on, and I didn't really recognize it because I didn't drink that much. I don't feel like I really noticed massive changes until like a year or two later, where I looked back and I was like, oh my God, I love my life now. Like it's so much better. And I think it was the same with antidepressants as well. It's like I didn't really notice the changes straight away, but then it's kind of a couple years later when you look back and you're like, you realize how different you are as a person. And I think it was a combination of everything. And it's just like an amazing thing that I've done. And I'm so happy that I've done it. And I've noticed so much positive change, but only after like a year or two of like reflection and be like, oh yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like quite a lot of stuff happening like at once, especially with like antidepressants and not drinking. It's probably like, it takes a while, doesn't it, for the chemicals and everything to kind of work itself out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was my like whole reason for stopping, is my anxiety was so bad at the time that it was like, I have to do something, and it's probably this which is causing it. So, but again, I mean, I talked about it a lot. The first 100 days for me was like not enjoyable at all. Didn't really think it got worse, if anything.
Yeah.
And then, it wasn't until a lot later on that suddenly it was like, oh, I feel better.
Yeah.
And you kind of don't really notice until you do. And then you're like, oh yeah, I haven't had that kind of, that feeling that I felt a lot is like less, but sometimes it just takes a bit of time to step away from it, doesn't it? And go, okay.
It does. And then when other people will speak to me and they're like, oh, I feel so hungover today. And I'm like, oh, I forgot how good it is to not feel hungover. And I've got so much, I feel like I've got my time back as well. Like if I went out on a Friday, I would be sick the next day and I would be just like really struggling, and it's just like wasted half your weekend. Whereas now, like I got a lot of hobbies throughout lockdown, as a lot of people have, but I feel like I've got even more since I've stopped drinking. Like I've randomly bought roller skates the other day, and I've just started like roller skating after work in my front room. And it's just like, I have so much time and I love my hobbies, and I have like so many different hobbies. And I think like you just get your life back a little bit, and you're not, when I go out for drinks, like the worst thing that I feel the next day is tired. And I don't know if you get this, but I feel sometimes like a bit emotionally hungover. Like 100%. I get the fake hangovers and I'm like, ugh, but it's not as bad as a real hangover, but I still kind of get that. But like, that's the worst it gets. And I'm like, I really like that I kind of get my day back the next day, and I can do some crafts and I can crochet and I can just do something without worrying. Yeah.
That's great. How do you feel like now, say going to like gigs or weddings or like birthdays versus what you did before? Like what would have been your coping mechanisms before, and how do you approach them now?
Yeah, I think gigs and concerts, I never used to have that many drinks when I was there. So I feel like I haven't noticed too much of a difference, but I feel like I'm more present during them. Like I'm a big Taylor Swift fan, and I went to the Eras tour 3 times. And
congratulations to Taylor, by the way.
I know, great news. We're all very excited. But I just like was so present, and I was there, and it's like, oh my God, I've been waiting for this moment since I was like 12 and I was listening to her albums. And I think like you're just so much more present and you remember it. And I was going with other people who were also sober, and it was just great. And there were some people behind me that were like really drunk and like spilling their drinks on me, and I was like, I'm so glad I'm not them right now. And so I feel like I'm appreciating, like I'm more present, I'm going to remember it, it's nice. Weddings, I feel like I'm not quite at the age where lots of my friends are getting married, but it's something
lucky.
That massively worries me, because I've done one wedding since I've been sober, and I remember like the night before it got moved till like 8 o'clock in the morning because of the weather, and then between when the wedding ceremony was and then like the reception was just hours where just people were drinking, and I was like, I don't know anyone here, like this is quite a lot to just be on the Diet Cokes, because there wasn't like a huge amount else. And I remember feeling a bit like I stuck out like a sore thumb, and I think that's definitely something that is worrying me about the future, and like how I'll deal with that, of like, even when I get married, like I'm not even engaged yet, but I worry about my wedding all the time. And like, if I get anxious around drunk people, I'm like, I don't want people drinking at my wedding, but I don't want people to be bored.
The guest prior to you was a wedding planner.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the future of weddings and sobriety weddings and how to feel less anxious. And my partner doesn't drink either. So my plan, I'm talking about, this is the second podcast I've spoken about this, so I'm going to have it happen. I want to have an alcohol-free wedding. And not in a sense that I don't want anyone to have a good time, but I want it almost like a social experiment of like, if you get the right people and the right vibe, can you do it? Because I think weddings, just in general, I think drunk people are the things that still make me have that pit of my stomach, because they're unpredictable and they're scary. They're just like, "Ah!" And I went to see Oasis, probably similar to your Taylor Swift moment of like something I've been so excited for so long. And luckily it wasn't ruined by drunk people, but it so easily could have been if I was stood around the wrong people.
Crowd,
and that's the issue for me with like weddings as well, is that you've got no control over it. So my logic's like, well, if I can control that nobody can drink, then there'll be no issue at all.
It was interesting, wasn't it? Like talking through with Georgie about that, because we were saying that actually that's the killer spot, is in between the ceremony and the
wedding breakfast.
Wedding breakfast.
Why do they call also, can I just say, dumb name. Don't call it a wedding breakfast for a 4 p.m. dinner.
I know.
Call it your wedding dinner.
I didn't know they called it that.
Yeah, wedding breakfast.
Wedding breakfast is what it's called.
Oh.
Stupid.
Yeah, it's crazy.
See, heard it first.
But it's usually at least 2 hours. And for most people that are at a wedding, that's the point where it's full send. You know, I was guilty of it. But now, having done my wedding sober and been at quite a few sober, they are actually quite a vibe. But it's just like, you know, the first one was kind of just like getting through it, and then you sort of work out what the good bits are, when to just like take a bit of a break and a breather, you know. And some of them as well, where it's been like on-site accommodation, perfect, because in that period you just go and chill for an hour.
Yeah,
everyone's getting like shit-faced, and you just go and watch like an episode of Suits, or like,
I did that exact thing when I went to a wedding. I snuck back to my room and was watching my little TV show on my iPad. It was brilliant.
Oh, so good. And it's like, you don't have to worry about it. And then, yes, inevitably, as the night goes on, people get more rowdy. You just tap out when you want.
Yeah.
You know, when it gets too much, and you're like, cool.
I was thinking about that, actually, like the regret I probably had on some weddings, or just events I'd gone to, where you are away for a couple of nights somewhere beautiful, and then you've got really drunk and you've just like ruined the next day in this like beautiful place or this beautiful setting, or you've not gone to the beach or whatnot. And I was thinking about that. How many like beautiful places have I been in that I've just been like too hungover to like function and just not enjoyed? Probably similar to your holiday. You're just like, what a waste of life. And now being sober, it's like, oh yeah, every minute of this, you know, I enjoy, even if I do wake up at like 5:30 every morning against my wishes. You're just like, oh, morning. You're like, fuck.
I know. That's never going to change. I just cannot ever, for the life of me, sleep.
Yeah. How's your sleep now that you're so...
Well, I do. I'm a massive sleeper. Like
I'm so jealous.
I used to be a night owl. Like I would be up until like 2-3 in the morning and then wake up at like 2 p.m. if I wasn't working, obviously. But then I
Jenny
think
from accounts is still
I'm
listening to
like,
this.
don't worry, I wasn't when I was working from home. But like I was a big sleeper, and my boyfriend, he is like wants to go to bed early, wake up early. So I'm now like, we'll go to bed with him at like 10, 11, but I still sleep in until about 10. He's lived about 3 lives by the time I've actually woken up. But I think like another thing with antidepressants, like I'm now on, I used to always take them in the morning, and then I switched to mirtazapine, and I had it in the morning the first time I ever took it. And I literally had to, I was in the office, I had to be driven home. So I was like, I actually can't get behind the wheel of a car. I was so tired. And then I fell asleep for like 3 hours during the day. And so now I take it at night, and it really helps me sleep.
Right,
so I think like my sleep's massively improved from that. And I think when I go out for drinks as well, like when you're drunk and then you're never really sleeping that well, and then you wake up the next morning, you're like, I've not slept, I'm hungover, like I hate my life. Whereas now I'm like,
let's go. Yeah, I mean, I have to get up at 4:30 tomorrow to go to Barcelona. It doesn't faze me anymore because I'm just up.
Yeah,
like
I've
not
got
too past that time anyway now.
3 a.m.
So
alarm on Saturday for Portugal.
which back in the day would have like been like, oh God, I'm not going to sleep. But I know that I'll get to bed at 10:30. I'll be up at 4:30, and that's my 6 hours, and I'm like, let's go.
oh no, I'm a sleepy girl through and through. I'm like, I need my like 9-10 hours of sleep.
Oh, I'm so jealous. Like, I would love to do it, but I think at Christmas, I think it's like the one time where I really properly do switch off, because there's that kind of like few weeks where not much happens. You kind of get left to your own devices a bit, and I think that's the time I properly catch up on like the year of sleep that's needed. But no, I mean, it sounds like you're in a really good like place, and you know, you're tackling all the kind of situations. I mean, going back, I think you said you were, you know, had a couple of like doubts, and where do you think they kind of came from?
Yeah, it's a very recent thing where I've started thinking like, would I ever drink again, just socially? And to be honest, it's completely come from, I feel like I get invited to less now I don't drink, and I think I didn't really notice it until something happened at work, which is so minor. And again, it's probably just me overthinking it. But it was a really sunny day and I was like, oh, I'd love to go to the pub and have a little Diet Coke. And I said it to someone. And then a couple hours later, a group of people, quite big, went to the pub and I wasn't invited and I could hear them talking about it. And I was thinking, do you think it's like, is that because I don't drink that I'm not invited to that? Like, it could be that I didn't live near where they were going or like something like that. But I was like, it's really weird that I was having that conversation. And then, and I remember really overthinking it. I'm getting worried about like that maybe some of the people in the group, like they are big drinkers and they do some, like, overhear conversations. I feel like it bothers me less now, but when people are like, oh, I'm not going to come because I'm not going to come to drinks tonight because I'm driving, so there's no point because I'm not drinking. And I'm like, okay, you know, I don't drink, there's still point at me. Like, and I'm trying to get my head out of like, that's just sometimes how people are. But I think that one-off event just kind of triggered something in my mind where I was like, I actually think I get invited to less. And I made a video about it. And some of the comments were people who've experienced the same thing. And I was like, okay, well, I feel like I'm not going crazy. And someone said that they were like, this is definitely not advice and don't do this. But like, I did go back to drinking and I did start getting invited to things more. And it made me feel better because I was like, okay, maybe it's not in my head. But I think I've been having those doubts recently where I was like, well, like I didn't necessarily like have a problem with alcohol. So maybe I could do it. And I've like had a big conversation with Millie about it as well. And we were talking about the fact that, you know, even though I didn't have like a problem with alcohol itself, alcohol was still causing problems for me. And there's reasons I gave it up. And if I went back to drinking, they would still be there.
Yeah.
And the anxiety and the out of control and the hangovers, like that's all still going to be there if I go back to drinking. And my boyfriend was saying to me, like, you love being sober, you love not drinking. Like the only reason you'd be doing that is for other people's perception.
Yeah.
And it's the same with like anything. If I go back to it, I'll probably regret it instantly and be like, why did I do that? And like I have this, because I'm vegetarian, and I think that sometimes I'm like, oh, would I eat meat again? Or would I like want to try this if I went there? And I'm like, I'd regret it immediately and be like, why did I waste that? Like that's, So I think I've had that time. I think it's probably a normal part of a sobriety journey to have that. Do I want to go back to it? Realistically, I know that what's going to happen is I'm going to drink. I'm going to be like, hate that. And I'm going to go back to being sober. So I think it's kind of a normal part of the journey to sometimes question it.
Definitely.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've 100% been invited to less.
Yeah.
Like I've actively seen groups of friends who I would have spent every weekend and summer with for the last 5 years, like out for someone's birthday, and I had no idea it was happening.
Yeah.
And it fucking hurts.
It does.
But I said to my girlfriend as well, like, we had a really big conversation about it because I was like, what am I missing out on here? Like, is it that I feel rejected? Is it FOMO? And then she was like, yeah, but have you seen those people since you quit drinking, like for coffee or for dinner? And I was like, no, you're kind of right. And then I kind of did a real big deep dive into like the depth of the relationship I had with those people in the first place. And I realized that actually my really, really close friends that I've been friends with since day dot do still invite me places. And a lot of the people who my relationship with them was very pub based, even though I would still love to go to the pub with them, they maybe just still see each other as like drinking buddies and not much more. And I've had to just really shed some skin. And even now, if I see people at like a festival, it's more of like a, hey, how are you? Rather than like, oh, we'd go out for like 10 hours drinking on end. And I would be like, you know, a picture being like me and my best buds, but actually like, were they? And it hurts. But yeah, I had to do the exact same thing because it did make me be like, oh, is it because I'm sober? But again, like my life is 1,000 million, 100 trillion times better without drinking. And I don't think I'd want to ever rock that boat to go back to it.
Well, it's like we did an episode last season called like One Won't Hurt, Will It? And it's kind of like, because that question plays on everyone's mind, I think, you know, no matter, especially for me and Jamie, who weren't necessarily in like active addiction.
Yeah.
Even though
fucking close.
Pretty close. But, you know, we were fortunate enough to be able to stop of our own accord and, you know, not have to attend like program or rehabilitation. So it was very much like a personal choice, me very much anxiety driven doing it. And you have that kind of thing sometimes about the FOMO and about certain situations where, you know, you romanticize perhaps whether it's a holiday or a certain like situation. And I think it's so natural to do it, isn't it? Because you think about it and stuff like that does make you think about it because you want to be, as humans, we want to be accepted. We want to be part of what's going on. And I think that is hard, and you have to kind of take it on the chin a little bit. But then when you write everything down, you ask me those questions when we were going through, like, is your relationship better? Like, is your relationship with your friends better? Like, are you happier? Are you less anxious? And you start writing out all this stuff. And then when you look at all of that and it's all like a tick and it's all in the green, and then you're like, are you invited out less? That's one I can live with.
Yeah.
Because it's like, cool. Like, you know, I'm with my kid and, you know, my wife at the weekends and, you know, try and spend as much time. So I'm fucking grateful that I'm invited to less, if I'm honest. Like, it's great. I'm just like, yeah, great. More of that, please.
Yeah, so the pros definitely outweigh the cons. And I feel like I definitely think I'm the friend that people then do something different with. Like, I've got this one friend who, we always did it, but every single time we meet up now, we always do some sort of craft. Like, we do painting, or we do like clay worry stones, or like something like that. And I feel like I'm kind of that friend for people where even if they do drink, like, we'll do something wholesome like pottery painting, or like we'll go and do something that's a bit different. Nice. And I think I'm kind of like that person that people can do things with, because I'm not necessarily like, yep, let's go to a bar. And so I think, yeah, you're so right that the pros outweigh the cons, and like, yeah, you may be invited out less, but like your true friends are still going to want to hang out with you. And it's just about like how you do that. And
you never know what your friends are looking for internally either. So actually I found it sometimes where I've gone out with friends and we've just gone for like a long walk or whatever, and they'll be like, oh wow, that was so nice, I really needed that. And you're like, oh okay, actually you're kind of like looking over my way too, but you don't want to admit that. So actually those things that you're doing with someone might be that little seed. And we found that a lot. Like, you never want to be preachy, which maybe sounds ridiculous considering we have a podcast, but like just planting those seeds for people to make up their own mind and go on their own journey is really fascinating. Because we've seen, I probably had 5 or 6 friends, you know, who I never thought would go sober since I have. Not saying I'm the reason, but I think if they can see some, and I had a really good friend and my cousin both went sober before me, and you. They're like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. And then if I can do it, someone else can do it. And it kind of creates this almost like really positive chain reaction.
Yeah, and people probably have those thoughts in their head, and then when they see someone do it, they're like, oh, interesting. And I've had people who are like, I wouldn't even, like, I don't speak to them that often. They're not really like close friends, but like kind of more acquaintances where they're like, hey, I wanted to speak to you about drinking. Like, I've been considering stopping, and I just wanted to like speak about it with someone who gets it. And I'm so happy to be that person. I'm like, I love talking about being sober. Like, it's the best. And I think sometimes being that person for someone's really helpful to get them kind of thinking about their own journey and like have someone to speak to about it.
Yeah, it is good. And like, I think it's great that you're happy to be that person. And I think likewise, we are always happy to have a conversation, you know, and just be real about it, because it's not always easy.
No.
And, you know, there's definitely times like you say where you think, oh man, like that kind of sucks. But it's just about kind of reminding yourself and talking about it with your mates, isn't it? And people, and like having these conversations when I'm like, whenever we're struggling or something's come up, we'll like text each other if we're in America or you're in Australia, and being like, mate, this is hectic. Like,
for
you know, you have to kind of keep talking about it. Otherwise, you know, it kind of plays on your mind, doesn't it? So
definitely.
I want to ask about your platform, kind of when you started it and how you found, because the internet's a cruel place at times. So for someone who's maybe quite anxious, how you found building a platform, and also how you've kind of built your sobriety journey into that, and what you found the audience kind of relating to.
Yeah, to be honest, it was a bit of a whirlwind, and it's like a really random thing that happened, and I was never expecting it to go anywhere. But I basically started in lockdown, well, a bit before lockdown actually, making videos. And it started as like a bullet journaling account. I'm not even good at journaling, but I used to like film myself making these little bullet journal pages. And then it kind of just would make funny videos about like vampire diaries or like some random stuff. And then people started following it, and I got to about 30,000 followers. And then really weirdly, but Liam Payne duetted one of my videos, and like it just took off, and like I got loads of followers from it. And then I just started building this community, and I absolutely love it. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And there's people who followed me from the start who know so much about me, and I feel like, oh my God, I've really overshared on the internet, but like they have been there since the start, and they know about me, and they followed my journey, and it's so nice to have that community. And I think since lockdown, I lived alone for one of the lockdowns, so I had a lot of time on my hands, and I would do a lot of videos about, like, I was very anxious during lockdown, especially living by myself. Like, at one point I didn't even leave my house for 5 weeks, and I like didn't even go to the shops. I was just inside the whole time. So I think like sharing that journey and being really honest about it, people resonated with that. Like, it was a difficult time for everyone, and you just have those moments where you're like getting drunk with friends on FaceTime, and then you end the FaceTime and you're like, hey, now I'm just drunk by myself in my house. This is really,
This
is not great. And so I think like having that platform and having that community, and I used to do live streams and just talk to people, and it was really nice. And I think when I stopped drinking, like I share everything on there. So I just like shared that as well. And I think then you find people like I found Millie, and like Sober Girl Society has been such a huge part of my sober journey. And I think I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that, because it's helped me so much when I've had those like doubts. I'm speaking to Millie about it, or I meet people at these events and I really get on with them. We've got a common interest. And I think I've made so many friends through it. I'm like such a huge advocate for like meeting people on the internet, which you're taught when you're younger, don't meet people on the internet. And I literally met my boyfriend on Twitter. So like, it's like, I love it. I've made so many friends through it. It's just turned into something that I never expected. And you mentioned that anxiety. I have no idea why I used to film videos and not be anxious about it going to millions of people, but it just didn't feel like it was, because I just post it and I'm like, okay, whatever. And don't get me wrong, there are some horrible people and I've had some like horrible experiences, but I think I just try to be careful about like how much I push about my private life, and like I'm very careful about what I say, because people can be quite horrible for no reason. And I've just learned that people will just do that because they just want to, and they'll always have something to say. And I've had an experience recently where I accidentally got served alcohol at a bar, and it was definitely partially my fault because I pointed to the non-alcoholic one. I didn't realize they had an alcoholic one named to the same name, and I drank about 3 sips of it, and then I remember like giving it to the person and be like, "Is this got alcohol in it?" And he was like, "Yes, you ordered this one," and I was like really upset about it, and I was like, "Oh, okay," and he didn't offer to like make me a new one or like give me, I don't know, the money back or anything, which it wasn't about that, but I was just really upset about it. And I posted a video about it, not blaming him or anything, because like I was the one who ordered it, and he could have been a bit nicer about it. And like some people were like, "I know, on your side." Some people are horrible, and they're like, "This is completely your fault." And I'm like, "Okay, please, can we just like
everyone just chill?
It's fine, like it's not that deep." But yeah, I think there's pros and cons to everything. But like it's brought me so many amazing things. I've met so many amazing people, and I think having like an online community as part of sobriety is such a nice thing, because it really, the people around you make such a difference. And like having people who've had similar experiences and like speaking to you now, like it's so helpful as part of that journey.
Yeah, we found that it's like the number one thing I think that's held both of us accountable is doing something that A, hopefully helps other people, but B, every time we do a conversation like this, or you get a DM, or you speak on our Patreon, like you realize there's such a beautiful community and everyone's doing it for lovely reasons or is trying to better themselves. And I don't think there's many things in life where you could be like, oh, everyone's actually trying to be better.
Yeah.
'Cause I think in the world, we're often trying to just one up each other or like show off or whatever. But this is just like, no, actually, do you know what? I'm just trying to be better for myself and everyone around me.
Yeah.
It's quite a nice, wholesome thing,
100%.
really.
It is. And everyone's doing it for different reasons, different levels of like why they got into it. Some people aren't even fully sober, they're sober curious, which I love as a term, because I feel like it's such a nice stepping stone for people, because it's quite daunting maybe to go sober straight away. So like I've met people who are sober curious, and it's like you've just got this shared goal, and everyone is like doing things that make them thrive and they love it. And I think I'm very lucky that the people that I've met for are very non-judgmental. Like I posted about me having doubts about whether I'd want to go back to drinking, and everyone who was commenting on it was so supportive and like talking about their experience. And it was just like a really open and honest conversation. And it wasn't like you were saying like, oh, well, actually, no, blah, 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 like one-upping. It's just, it's really nice. Like all the people I've met are just so lovely.
So it should be like, I think this was something we kind of came up with a mantra when we started. This was like honest, raw, real, and kind of funny if we can be, because it's like, it's kind of a humorous journey really that like both of us were like on the path that we were, but ultimately like it has to be real. So like you being like, oh, I've been thinking about drinking again. We think about drinking again all the time. Like you're not just there being like, oh, I'm sober now, and because we have this podcast, this platform, like that's it, that's us. It's like, no, we have to. Sometimes it's really shit, and sometimes you want to reach for a drink, or sometimes you want to, go out with your mates and get off your nut. But like, you just have to come back to that reason of like the why, and why does it serve you or doesn't serve you?
Yeah, and if you're talking about it, then it's like other people who might have that thought as well be like, okay, that's normal. Like it's a normal part, rather than being like, oh, I want to drink. Does that make me a really bad person? Or
100%. I think it might be time.
Time for the big three.
Time for the big three.
The first big three in the new studio.
Oh, yes. So, for anyone going on a journey of sobriety, what would your single best piece of advice be?
Don't be afraid to set boundaries. I found that so helpful when I first stopped drinking, of just knowing my limits, and if I need to go home because I'm just a bit overwhelmed and I'm feeling anxious, like that's okay. And if you are getting like really struggling with some social situations or some work drinks or something like that, it's okay to say no when you're trying to figure out the sober lifestyle. Like it's hard, and so I feel like don't be afraid to set boundaries and just take your time with it because it is a journey.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good.
Mm.
So what is the question number 2? What is the single best thing that sobriety has brought you?
Time. I feel like I've got my life back a little bit, and like the hangovers and everything. Like I have time for things that I enjoy, and I feel like I've found so many more things that I love, and like I just have time to do hobbies, and I've really like I've dived straight first into hobbies, and I absolutely love it. And I think like I've just got time, and I feel like I'm living my life for like what I want to do rather than what I think people want me to do, which is like go for drinks. But I'm like, sometimes on a Friday night I want to sit and play Sims and crochet, and that's okay. And I think that's
I've watched so much American network television since I've gone sober. Since Els moved in, it's like we have worked our way through like so many TV shows. But I like love it. Like I look forward to a Friday night and being like, oh cool, we're gonna watch Grace and Frankie all night. It's like sick.
Yeah, it's
like,
good. And you're
it.
like, that's what you want to do. And so it's nice that you get to do what you want to do rather than being like, oh, it's a Saturday night and I'm 25. Maybe I should be out drinking. I don't want to be. Like, it's fine.
No one wants to be in like Liverpool Street with like everyone off their nut. When
exactly.
You're the streets of Shoreditch.
No, exactly.
And the first one of the season, we would like Alex to write a letter to drunk Alex. So if you could start your letter with, Dear Alex, what would you say to your former drunk self?
I would probably say it's okay to not do what other people want you to do, and don't be afraid to prioritize what you want, and don't do things just because you think other people want to. And that falls back to like the drinking thing. And like I've had people say to me like, oh, you didn't have a problem with drinking, like why are you giving it up? But like if things aren't serving you anymore, that's okay to make a change. And I don't think people should have to get to rock bottom before they make a change. Like I wasn't enjoying myself and I wasn't getting anything out of it apart from maybe being a little bit more social at the start of the night, but like it wasn't serving me. So I think don't be afraid to make changes that you think are going to benefit you, because it's not always, you're living your life for you. Like it's not always about other people. And are you going to look back when you're 80 and be like, oh, I'm so glad I drunk so people didn't think I was weird at a social event? Like you're not going to think that. So yeah.
So true. I love that.
Well, thanks so much for coming on.
No, thank you for having me. It's just been amazing.
It's been so nice.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to help a lot of people. So thank you.
Thank you.